Warning, we are a spoilers podcast. At times we are also an offensive podcast. And we are most certainly a verbally explicit podcast. So if you fear for any of your delicate sensibilities, please back up now before you reach the point of no return. Alright, pussies, this is your final warning.
So, like, everybody in my house now has this tendency, because my cat has a little bit of a gastric problem. So now they're always on the watch for whether or not the cat is using the restroom. And they've learned that the cat will get a squinty-eyed look and his lips will purse. So whenever he's trying to use the restroom like that. Peeing, we're fine. But if he
keep up with
his
the
lips,
health checks.
We have to have wipes on hand.
Oh, no.
And this is a wonderful way to begin a podcast after having been on hiatus for almost a month. Welcome to Cinematic Anarchy. I am Chris, your host, and with me today, Rachel, Matt from the Strange and Beautiful Book Club podcast. Thank you for joining me again.
Oh,
Good
you're
evening.
welcome.
And
Happy
we
to be
are
back.
we are beginning 2025 with a bang.
A double feature.
Western musicals.
A double feature of Western musicals that couldn't be more alike, but also more different.
Yes, that's fair.
There are many differences, many
Westerns
similarities.
that didn't need to be musicals.
One that they spent so little on and made a decent product, and one that they spent way too much on and still made a decent product.
Yeah. I like
But to the
Paint Your
same
Wagon.
effect.
Yeah.
I did like Paint Your Wagon. It was, I'll be honest, confusing.
Yeah. It's two movies. It's the first half and the second half. And the first half is fine. The second half is less good.
Everything before the intermission felt like it was part of one cohesive story.
Yeah.
And then after the intermission, I just got the feeling that it was just a series of different events strung together just to finish the damn movie off.
Yeah, they wanted it a little bit longer, but they didn't know how to make it longer. So they were like, what if we do a bunch of stuff completely unrelated to what happened in the first part? Okay, great. Yeah, we could do that.
I feel like
I thought it was all part of the original play.
It's not a play. It's just this. Paint Your Wagon just
I
popped
thought
out.
said it was based on the stage play.
it was loosely.
Oh, okay.
It was very loosely based on the stage play. The part that Clint Eastwood plays was literally I think a Mexican mine worker, if I'm not mistaken. And he...
Very loosely.
Yeah, very loosely. The entire story revolved around Clint Eastwood's character basically being a Mexican mine worker, which obviously Clint Eastwood was not in this movie.
No.
And
he was a Michigan farmer.
Whitewash.
Right. And Lee Harvey's character actually had a daughter in the movie that the Mexican mine worker had fallen in love with, and they follow that story.
Okay.
So the polygamy, I don't believe, was part of the original story, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, shucks.
So the polygamy and then the reverse polygamy, because we had a one guy with two wives situation, then we end up with a one wife with two guys situation, which you rarely ever hear of.
Right.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite parts of the movie is when she's like, I was married to a guy who was married to two women. How come I can't be married to two men?
And neither of them could think of a reason.
They're like, well, because you can't. And she's like, okay, but like, why can't I? And he's like, there's just because you can't.
Explain it to me like I'm 5.
And they're like, you know what? Actually, I don't know. He's like, I don't know. Actually, I don't think there's a reason why we can't do it. And they're like, well, all right, fuck it. Then let's do it.
Because, they didn't think of this during the actual movie. They didn't think to bring this thought up. But men, just ego-wise, have a lot more difficulty.
It'd be a male
sharing.
insecurity thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But they're fine. They do it. And then they have that scene where they're at dinner and he's like, wow, I sure am tired. And the other guy's like, oh, I think I'm going to go to the casino. And they switch off. And he's like, wait a minute. I thought I was tired last night. And he's like, nope, last night you were tired and I went to the casino. Like,
oh, wink, wink.
Right. Yeah.
Air quotes.
And I like when she pulls a gun on him because he's drunk and he buys her. And then he gets in the tent and he's ready to have his way with her. And she pulls the gun on him. And she's like, first of all, I want a cabin with walls and a door. She's like, here are my demands. And he's like, okay.
Like, just because I agreed to let you buy me doesn't mean I'm a whore.
Right.
Right.
It's not the same thing. I think that's a great scene because he ends up being like, you're right. I'm sorry. Like, I apologize for
Properly chastised.
Yeah, I apologize for making assumptions about.
As much as I like Lee Harvey and Clint Eastwood, I think that she steals most of the scenes in the movie.
Yeah, when the ones that she's in, absolutely. Yeah. And then he walks out and all those guys are there waiting to see her.
In the morning?
Yeah. And he's like, all right, boys, she wants a cabin with 4 walls and whatever. And so they build her a cabin. I think that's so cute. Like, that's so sweet because we were talking about it. It's a movie about a town populated entirely by men.
Right.
And there's no women anywhere. And that guy shows up with 2 wives. And the first thing that happens is the really burly dude is like, can I hold your baby? I'll give you $50 if I can just snuggle the baby.
And he just wants to hold the baby and show off the baby to the other guys.
You know how quickly this could have been a grimdark musical of like,
right?
A bunch of, like, just it could have gone so horribly, and instead it's just this really sweet, wholesome. He's holding the baby for the whole rest of the scene, and then they're all sitting and eating at the restaurant, and the one guy's like, "You know what? It ain't right. He's got 2 of what none of us have got 1 of." And I don't think that's right. And the one lady's like, I mean, I'm game to be sold, so it's totally fine with me. It's just a cute. It's an odd.
I like that the
cute...
other wife was trying to convince him. Yeah, please go ahead and sell her because I can't stand that martyr look on her face anymore. She goes, look right there. That's that look. And she goes, this isn't a look of martyrdom. This is a look of pure hate.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. She's got so many good lines. And he's like, you don't know what you're going to get. And she's like, I know what I've had.
Yep. The fact that it was well written enough that I've only watched it once through, and a lot of the stuff is stuck in my head.
Right. And then they have that whole scene where they dress up as army officers and they hijack that stagecoach full of sex workers.
Yeah.
There are so many things that could have taken deep, dark turns in this movie.
Yeah.
And they turned into, weirdly, just wholesome scenes, which made no sense to me. Like, there's a lot of this that should have been a lot more gritty than it was.
This was very skillful storytelling.
Right. And then there's that, they find those people that have been marooned, that like group of settlers, and they bring them back to the cabin. It's in the second half, so it kind of feels disjointed from the rest, but they end up leaving the young kid with Lee Harvey's character. And he's like, he takes him to the casino / sex worker area, like brothel. And he's like, okay, here, have some whiskey. And he just knocks it back and he's like, yeah, that tastes good.
Yeah, he's trying to embarrass the kid.
Have you ever had anything to drink before? And he's like, nope, that was my first one. And he just refills it and drinks another one.
The cold, empty feeling is gone now. Thank you.
Yeah. And he gives him a cigar, and then he like takes him, like he corrupts.
He perfectly imitates the cigar technique.
He corrupts this young kid, and it's supposed to be, it could have been weird and gross, but instead it ends up being funny. And he's like, wow, what is it? Drinking's the second best thing in the world.
Drinking and cigars are the second and third best thing.
Yeah, but the last one, that was the best part.
Yeah, he starts off, he's trying to like get the kid to embarrass himself by trying to do something and then either like chickening out or whatever. But the kid just goes right in and rocks it.
He was hoping he'd choke on the whiskey. He didn't choke on the whiskey. He was hoping he'd choke on the cigar. He didn't choke on the cigar. Man, that was tasty.
Yeah.
And then after that, he was like, well, let's see what else this kid can do. He's a natural.
He's like, oh, God, this kid's me, but better.
Yeah, basically.
He can hold his liquor. He's still standing up, you know.
Yeah. It's just, and then the opening scene really sets the tone because that stagecoach, or that, not a stagecoach really, but a wagon, whatever, falls. And they have the whole funeral for that guy. And as they're all looking around, they can see the gold dust in the ground. And so he starts praying or like giving a service. And he's like, and I stake this claim in the name of me and my partner over there. And it's just unconscious Clint Eastwood. And then they throw the guy out of the grave and start
Oh, they didn't
digging.
just throw him out of the grave. They used the ropes underneath him to just eject him into the river.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then they all pile into the grave.
yeah, and that chicken that Ben Rumson sticks in his coat did not survive that scene when he grabs the chicken and it goes.
He
"Ruff,"
grabs the
sticks
chicken, it makes a very distressed sound, and then makes no sound.
There was definitely some animal rights violations in this movie.
Yeah.
Long before they put many of those in place.
Is it
Yeah.
a violation if there's no laws that exist at the time?
I mean, now it would be considered a
Now
violation.
it would be a
Yeah,
violation.
let's just put it that way, shall we?
Yeah.
You can look back and say, well, they couldn't do that right now.
Yeah.
They'd have to CG that.
But you're right. This movie is weirdly wholesome. I like Ben Rumson's when he's talking to Partner, and he's like, because Partner's like, why do you want me to, like, I was unconscious. Why even ask me to be your partner? And he's like, well, sometimes I get a case of the melancholies, and I need you to be there. Be my solace in my hour of need.
Companionship and
Yeah, be my
solace.
companion in my hour of need. And he's like, and sometimes I'll be muddy drunk in the street, and I expect you to pick me up because I don't want to die muddy and drunk. And if I owe a man $100, I expect you to stand up for me.
The most hilarious thing in this film was the fact that Clint Eastwood had to spend the first 20 minutes of the film getting piggyback rides from Lee Harvey. Just around different scenes.
I know, because his leg is broken. I know.
I just...
It's such a, and Clint Eastwood sings that whole song about I talk to the trees. I talk to the trees. But they don't listen to me. And you're like,
about his imaginary girlfriend that doesn't exist.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
And I know. And Ben is like, oh, is that your girl? And he's like, yep.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like, actually, no, I made her up.
Yeah, later.
She
he's
doesn't
like,
exist. Oh, I think did we lose something? We lost sound for a moment. Okay. So,
I'm back.
You're back. Hi. Okay.
Yep.
I completely lost sound with you for a moment.
Oh, I was getting notifications from something, so I turned it on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the fact that this was weirdly wholesome also leads to the fact that the other movie that we're going to talk about tonight
Was not at all wholesome.
actually, there was a lot of weirdly wholesome parts to Cannibal the Musical.
There were two.
This felt exactly like what you would expect if the guy who wrote South Park wrote a Cannibal the Musical Western movie.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't even think that he went by his own name in this, if I'm not mistaken.
What he showed up, like Matt recognized the name. He was like, "Isn't that the South Park guy?" And then there's a part where he's doing a voice in the background, and it's Cartman's voice. And
It was absolutely Cartman.
and on our copy,
The sky is blue and all the... Yeah.
in our copy, the subtitles said "in Cartman's voice." Like it's subtitled.
Oh, the subtitles did say
the
that. I
subtitles
didn't notice
said
that.
in Cartman's voice, and I was like, okay, not even burying the lead there.
No, it was definitely in Cartman's voice. That was done by Matt Stone, right? He does Cartman's voice, or does Trey Parker do that voice?
Well, Trey Parker's the one that's in it, so
Well, both
I
of
would
them are in
guess him. Oh, both of them are? I don't
Both
know.
of them are
I,
in it.
I blacked out.
Matt Stone goes by his own name. Trey Parker has a pseudonym that he goes by in this, and I'm actually trying to find it right now because honestly, I don't remember the name of the pseudonym. I said pseudonym, which is not what that is. But he goes under a different name for this. This entire film, Cannibal the Musical, was basically a breakup letter to his ex-girlfriend that he named the horse after. So if you ever watch this movie again,
Yeah.
Leanne, which is his horse's name, is basically the name of his ex-girlfriend that he broke up with him shortly before he started doing this movie. And it was that breakup that forced him into a state of just writing his feelings and his anger out in screenplay form. And that's what you get with Cannibal the Musical.
Cannibal the Musical. Interesting.
Yeah.
So all the jokes that he makes about Leanne throughout the film, like everybody in town's ridden her, you know.
Oh Okay, that
does
makes
put
more
a whole
sense.
new
Yeah.
context, to it.
Or
Okay,
him
so
singing the
Trey
song "When I'm
Parker.
on Top of You."
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's a whole other thing.
And then he
Yeah.
gets it back in the end, and he's like, I brought your horse back. And he's like, oh, never mind. It's okay.
You found the name?
Juan Schwartz.
Juan Schwartz.
Trey Parker was credited as Juan Schwartz.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I cut you off for
Interesting
that, Rachel. My apologies. You can continue your thought.
Oh, it's just the horse at the end when he gets the horse back, and he's like, you know what? Never mind. I don't want the horse anymore. And he's like, you can have it, to the guy who then goes and cuts its head off.
The Japanese Indian chief
Yes.
who's pretending he's an Indian chief. He's like, "Where are you from, by the way?" Ohio.
Okay, there's a note about the pseudonym, Trey Parker's pseudonym, is a reference to the alias Alfred Packer used when he was discovered as John Schwartz.
Oh, okay. Was that when he was
From the
discovered
real story.
first time, or when he
in
was
Cheyenne,
discovered after?
Wyoming.
Okay, so that's after he escaped from prison, and he was hiding out in Wyoming for like 9 years.
Yeah.
That was also a joke they made during the movie, where he was just like, so where did you go? So go, well, they found me in Wyoming. She goes, why did you even come back? He goes, have you been to Wyoming? Just, hello? Just nobody there, him yelling at a field.
This was another movie that really set the tone with the opening scene, I feel. Because it's the courtroom drama, and then they talk about how he's like chasing everybody down and ripping their faces off with his teeth, and you see it.
Yes. Yeah, we really got here's how we're going to go with the gore, and here's how we're going to go with how seriously the characters take themselves.
And then they go completely the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because everybody is just different levels of goofy the entire film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
struggled
and I
forgot
forgot
this
what
movie.
that thought was.
Yeah, Matt struggled. Matt was just over there going, ugh.
Do you think that Disney stole the "Let's Build a Snowman" thing from them?
Yeah, I could see
Turned
that.
it into "Do you want to build a snowman?" We can make him taller.
Yeah.
We can make him not so tall. Snowman. And then somehow he ends up with a hole under his feet where he's just tap dancing on, I'm guessing, ice.
It's fine. There's no logic here.
It's a trauma movie. I'm not expecting logic.
No.
I have 5 trauma movies sitting next to me, and not one of them are based in logic.
I love that you got this movie in HD, though.
I got this in 4K resolution. Is
it even upscalable to that?
I mean, you can always.
Oh yeah, it is. It's beautiful.
Pixels.
This copy is absolutely beautiful. It is a 4K resolution copy of a movie that I spent $40 to get, and then found for free on YouTube. So, I had a VHS copy of this at one point, and the VHS transfer was absolute shit. It was horrible.
Yeah.
It was a well-used copy that I purchased through eBay back in the heydays of eBay, when things were fairly inexpensive and people didn't know what they were selling or sending through the mail. People didn't collect things. They're like, fuck, I get a VHS cassette of some random ass trauma movie. Yeah, let's give it to this guy for $2 plus $3 shipping. We're done.
Yeah.
Right. Just
And
get it out of my garage.
Now, 2025, hey, here's an absolutely shitty trauma movie. Let's sell it to this guy for $40, upscaled to 4K, and then charge him $10 for shipping.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's commitment to Cannibal the Musical.
I actually like this movie. I really do. And I wanted to... I have not gotten to listen to it yet, and I apologize for not listening to it for this particular podcast, because there is an entire commentary track on this that Matt Stone and Trey Parker do completely inebriated.
Okay, that would be fun. We do love a good drunk review. We've done several ourselves.
As long as I was drunk, too.
Yeah, Matt couldn't make it through it again sober, I don't think.
No.
I feel like I could have used a few shots to come to terms with the fact that I spent that much on this and then didn't put in the extra effort to watch things with the commentary track on for this?
I needed a shot for every time they said spadoinkle.
Or you would have died.
And
I would have died of alcohol poisoning.
Yes.
just they used spadoinkle in so many different ways. It was just a filler word. He was supposed to go back and add an actual word in there, and then he just decided he liked spadoinkle. And so what he was doing throughout the film, when you hear spadoinkle, that was filler.
Oh.
Right? That he was supposed to go back
South
and
Park
put
humor.
another word in. And then he went back and read the script and realized that there was comedic value to leaving it in different areas. You know, the song with spadoinkle, and then the guy exclaiming when he heard himself with the bear trap, spadoinkle, you know, just...
Yeah.
We don't even know what this word means anymore.
No.
But I'm just guessing that is their word for fuck.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fucking day.
Yeah, it felt very South Park. I was like, oh, okay. All right. I get that humor. I see it.
I recognize it. That's it.
Matt struggled so hard.
Wow. So this is where all that began. Somebody looked at this and went, wow, you know, we should give these guys the entire show all to themselves.
Yeah. And some movies and...
Could you, animate it? We don't want to see you. Just your voices.
Yeah. That show's been around a long time. I mean, kudos to them for going from this to being extremely successful.
Didn't they use the hair gag for Kenny in the actual TV show? Was it Kenny or Stan?
What hair gag?
Near the end where they're all, kind of sitting around the fire, and he pulls off his hat and it's just this big fro.
Probably.
Yeah, I think Kenny has a big fro.
Yeah. Wasn't Kenny the only one with the hat? Because
he wears the jacket with the hood on it.
Yeah. All I remember is he dies all the time.
I wasn't sure if it was Stan that had the hat that he has in this, that had the big red afro. So I don't know. The whole thing of basically a Larry Bird afro.
I remember 2 parts of this movie. I remember he's building a house when the reporter is talking to him because he's constructing the little house the whole time.
Oh, yeah. He's building it out of little pieces of wood in the jail cell.
And the scene when he's trying to kill that guy and he stabs him and he puts a pickaxe through his eye and he's...
Nope, the pickaxe went through his chest.
Yeah, and he puts a stick through his eye.
A butcher knife in one eye.
Butcher knife.
Yeah, the big butcher knife in one half of his face.
That was
stick in the eye.
They did a good job with because they get a good zoom in of him.
Yeah, we were watching this, and I thought, wow, that's really good makeup on that knife in his face. It even goes into his mouth.
Right.
And that's probably the highest praise I have for the movie.
He fell down the third time, and Matt was like, he's got one more. And he didn't. But then at the very end... He pops back up again, and Matt goes, there it is.
And then it fades into probably one of the most hilarious sketches of a surprise Trey Parker that I've ever seen. Just, and then the face is just drawn out like it's the Scream, the painting.
Yeah.
Hey, it sounds like somebody's checking in to add themselves to the podcast yet again. Hello.
Again. Hi, Amos.
Amos is a frequent contributor to the podcast.
I can say yes to what you asked
popped up several times in the last episode.
Yeah.
What can I say?
I'm going to keep talking so it doesn't feel as awkward this time, because the last time I was just dead silent letting him go.
He's an attention hog. What can I say?
Most children are. Children are.
He's not. He actually... No, that's not fair. He is. But he's really cute about it, so it's fine.
At a certain age they are, and then they get to the point where they don't want you to pay any attention to them at all. No, pretend I'm invisible. I'm not here. They will get to that point.
Yes. Our daughter is a little bit like that. Well, she wants to be 35, so...
Well, yeah, at about 35 years old, everybody wants to be invisible, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I'd prefer to be invisible at work much more frequently, but unfortunately, they know where I am at all times.
Yeah.
So... It's a small building. I can't get lost. So, yeah. Anyway.
All right, Rachel's closing Messenger on her computer.
That's okay. I've completely lost my train of thought, so my brain is off in left field again.
That's okay. All right.
We were talking about the guy with the knife in his face.
Yes, and then the jump scare.
Up at the end. And regarding a lot of the humor for me felt very predictable. But I think that's because I had like an era where I watched a lot of South Park, and it would have been early days of South Park, and this movie kind of was the formative project for what became the duo that made South Park. So they had established a lot of patterns based on their humor that they developed, and this was where they like first let it out. And so I learned the patterns of how they make jokes from South Park, and then I watched this, and it feels repetitive, but at the time, this was like a very experimental, creative thing. Maybe that's why it didn't hit hard for me.
I'm guessing if you watched it when it first came out as like a VHS cassette, before South Park became a thing, it wouldn't feel as
like if I had
stale.
seen this and not seen all the South Park that I've watched, it would have been more entertaining.
They had some good ones, like when they crossed the river, and then he's like, "Are there any more other rivers that are bigger than this?" And he's like, "No, just the Colorado River."
Oh yeah,
just the Colorado River.
Then later they're like, "Just the Colorado River. It's the biggest fucking river I've seen in my whole life." And then they get to the Grand Canyon, and he's like, "Ta-da, Colorado."
Or the payoff joke where he's like, "Okay, how long do you think it's going to take for us to get to Breckenridge?" And it's like, about 3 weeks. And then it cuts to them just walking through the wilderness, and you hear the other guy just goes, 3 weeks, my ass.
Oh yeah, they were getting close to Parvo. Was that what it was?
No, somewhere in Utah.
Provo,
yeah, not the dog disease.
Yeah,
no,
Parvo's a disease. They're like, oh yeah, we're almost to Provo. So I looked it up on the map. Where is Breckenridge and where is Provo? And Breckenridge is in like dead center in Colorado, and Provo is dead center in Utah. And so if they had started like all the way in like the northwest corner of Utah and traveled to Provo, they still had like 3 times as far to go to get from Provo to Breckenridge. This guy is not doing a good job.
No. But he wasn't really trying to get to Breckenridge, though. He was trying to get to Luann.
Right.
Leanne?
Right.
Leanne, not Luann. Leanne.
And I just thought it was interesting, the contrast in the budget for these two movies. Because, Paint Your Wagon the sets are gigantic. The cast of the extras and the cast of characters is gigantic. And they, at the very end of the movie, they destroy the entire set. So
they sink the entire set.
Everything that they have built, they destroy.
Which also shows you that Lee Harvey's character was not good at digging the tunnels. Lee Marvin. I kept calling him Lee Harvey. We're
That's
not
the
talking
guy
about the guy that killed JFK. Yeah.
No, Lee Marvin.
Lee Marvin. I've been calling him Lee Harvey this entire time, I think.
That's okay. It's fine. Cinematic anarchy. We're anarchists. We don't have to comply. We don't have to use.
Yes, but I should at least have enough coherence to call the guy by his proper name, or at least.
He looks completely different in this. Like, if you see him in anything else clean shaven, you would not recognize him.
He still looks gray and everything else, though.
Yeah, but he's so different looking in this than in everything else that he's ever been in. And he wears that top hat the entire movie. I love when they're giving him his bath and he's wearing long underwear. They're like scrubbing over the long underwear.
I don't know if you've played Red Dead Redemption at all or seen any videos about it.
I mean, I know of it, but I never played it.
There's like a couple of characters in this that feel like they belong in that world.
Yeah.
Just the kind of bravado and flamboyance of Lee Marvin's character. Seems like the lead bad guy.
He's a good character. And they had, I mean, this is not like, this is right when Clint Eastwood is in his heyday. So it's a lot of really big named actors in this movie that has this huge set. And then you have Cannibal the Musical, which is like 5 dudes and a horse. And the horse is only in it for like 5 minutes. And they just walk. Like, it's just them walk. And I love their period costume when they're in any Western town and everyone is just wearing vests and jeans. Like, Like, I think the reporter is the only one who has an actual costume, like an old-timey dress.
And a couple of the dancers in, like, the final number.
Yeah. When they're there just to see violence. So the Japanese guy cuts the head off the other guy. And they're like, okay, great. And then they just leave.
Oh, bad man!
That was the biggest noose knot I've ever seen in my entire life. It's like this big around. It's like 6 inches in diameter. How much rope did you wrap?
I will say one of the biggest contrasts between the two movies is Paint Your Wagon took an entire group of characters that should have on their face been completely unlikable and turned them into fairly likable characters. Whereas Cannibal the Musical took characters that you should have been sympathetic about and just turned them into characters that you're like, when is he going to eat them already?
Yeah.
I can get behind that.
Yeah. I did like the scene where they're trying to like ramp each other up to eat the meat, and they all clearly have different types of meat. Like one guy clearly has like overdone pork, and the other guy has like,
and one has
a
raw
leg.
Foot,
and he eats the foot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's eating pieces of meat, and then the one guy's just eating the whole foot.
Yeah, he's got an arm.
And then he's got like the arm. And then he's carrying his head later. Like the next day, he's carrying like the guy's torso. Like
that was an attempt at a dummy head.
A loose adaptation on a real event.
Was made.
Yeah.
Alfred Packer was actually a convicted cannibal in Colorado, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I tried to look it up, and the guy that looks like Alfred Packer, I'm trying to remember the name of the actor. He looks like spitting image of this actor from like the 70s and 80s, and I can't remember the guy's name for the life of me, but he was in a ton of different stuff. I can't remember his name now. Have you seen The Warriors?
No.
Nope.
But I have seen all of the Warrior actors because we were at a convention and the entire cast was there.
You've met the cast, but you haven't seen them.
We passed the cast in the hallway.
We passed a lot of older men in vests that no longer fit them. That's what we passed.
Fair enough.
They looked really happy to be there, though. I was really happy for them. And a lot of
people were really happy to have them there.
Yes, and there were a lot of other people in vests with a lot of signatures on them. So
I think there was only a handful of people that had an acting career outside of that movie, if I'm not mistaken. Just a handful. Like I know James Remar definitely had a fairly decent acting career, even up to like I think Sex and the City was one of the most recent things that he was in.
Wow. Well, considering
still not recent.
We were at like the weirdest, most. How do I want to put this?
Okay. It was such a weird venue.
It was ChillerCon, and it was in New Jersey, which is fine. But the website is straight GeoCities. Like, it looks like somebody made the website in 1995 and never updated it. Ever. Like, they just go on and change the dates. They never updated
the styling. Yeah, they just updated some of the content.
It was like a time capsule. It was amazing. Yeah. Like, I loved the website.
But and it was this hotel building.
It was in the shittiest, smallest hotel I've ever been in my life.
Giant, like, business park.
And there was absolutely no way to secure, like, where the people were for signatures and where the vendors were and where the hotel guests were. So if you had a hotel room key, you could have just gone to the con because they had no way of knowing who was just staying in the hotel.
Yeah, the stairs and the elevators were inside of the event space. So when you just came down, you were inside the event. Like they couldn't stop. It's not like they could just check for your ticket because it's like, oh no, I'm a guest at the hotel. And this is literally the only path that I can walk from my room to like the restaurant.
So it's almost like, why did I pay for this?
Yeah, but it was like $40 a day. So it wasn't like, of course I'm going to give you $40 a day. You put a lot of work into this, but it was all bootleg DVDs. Like that's all anybody was selling at any of the
60% of the stuff for sale was bootleg DVDs.
It was wild.
It was entertaining.
It felt like a con from 1995. Like the OG, like before all the pretentious cosplay con, $200 tickets, like celebrity panels where you have to pay
$200 tickets so that you can get in to pay another $200 to take a picture with somebody.
Right. Before that, when it was literally like, we will come to your town, we'll put a couple tables together, we'll sell some bootleg DVDs. There may be an actor here, can't make any guarantees. That's what it felt like. And it was so fun. But yeah, that's where the cast of the Warriors were. That's where we went to meet John Kapelos.
Okay.
From the Breakfast Club or Forever Night, which is why we went.
And Walter Koenig was there?
Yeah, Walter Koenig was there. He was like the big celebrity guest, so they were like escorting him around. It was really cute.
I haven't been to a convention this side of 2000. So,
well, if you're going to go to one, I would recommend ChillerCon. They have it twice a year.
I think it's right up your alley.
Yeah.
I personally remember going to a couple of conventions in Boston back in maybe like 97, 98. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, so this will feel familiar.
This was like a kind of like what you're talking about, where literally everybody that was there, it wasn't like you're walking into like people that are celebrities. You know, you're walking into people that now they tout as, hey, like this, remember this movie from 1980? Well, the people from that movie that have been in other movies that you probably don't remember from 1980 are also going to be here. They were there at these conventions kind of hawking like VHS copies of movies that they were trying to push out like, hey, like nobody's watched our movie in I don't know how long. And this is before like people started making like boutique restorations of films, before something weird video or, you know, so those boutique Blu-ray and DVD companies started popping up and trying to restore and kind of.
And you couldn't actually get a copy of the movie.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have these people that are making their own copies of their films, trying to keep the movie alive, just kind of pushing it out there. Of course, you know, $20 a piece back in 1998 was a little bit much for my blood too, but it was fun to talk to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, thank you for that. I'm going to go to Suncoast Video and try to find your movie in a cutout bin for $2.
Yeah. It was fun. It's good. I would recommend it. But no, we have not seen The Warriors. Back to your original question.
Back to my original question? No.
Yeah, which was, had we seen The Warriors, because the guy who, the original Cannibal, looked like one of the actors in The Warriors.
The guy, if you gave him like a Fu Manchu mustache and a beard, kind of like he has in this, if you shave that off, he kind of looks like the guy that does, if you've probably seen the GIF or a little clip of the guy that's got the bottles on his fingers, just clacking them.
Yeah.
Warriors, come out and play. That grating voice.
I'll take your word for it.
Honestly,
it's on our list of movies to watch.
If I'm entirely honest about the film, I've watched the film 4 times in my life. Twice to do an episode of this podcast that turned out all right. But there's only like 3 or 4 scenes that I really like in the entire film that I enjoy and I watch for those scenes. It's like the opening speech. You know, I loved the opening speech. I like the scene that leads up to the fight on the beach at the end. Hey, there you go. Spoilers. You haven't seen it.
It's okay.
But like this march from beginning to end, the only thing that I really like is the DJ that's just kind of playing music throughout the entire thing, trying to basically say, hey, everybody, the Warriors are trying to get back to Coney Island. You might want to take them out. Because
it feels like one of those movies you have to have like as a formative movie. Like if you watched it when you were that age and you identified with them, you're like, yeah, fuck yeah, the Warriors. And if you miss that window, you're going to be like, wow, that was culturally relevant and I'm glad I watched it. But you may not connect with it in the same way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's worth a watch if you like kind of gritty movies from the 60s and 70s. It's definitely worth at least one watch. I'm not going to say it is the best movie ever, but it is definitely worth, at least one watch. I'd put it just below watching A Clockwork Orange. We
tried reading A Clockwork Orange, and I made it through the first page.
It is definitely a different read than it is a film.
It was all made up words. And the whole foreword was the author going, I fucking hate this book. Why will this book not die? Why do you guys keep reading this book? It is the worst book I have ever written. I can't believe you're reading this. Fuck off. And that was the foreword. And then it started with like, 17 made up words.
Cockney.
And I was like, okay, well, I feel like respecting the author's wishes. If he doesn't want me to read it, I'm not going to read it.
He didn't want you to read the book so bad that he just basically made up a bunch of gibberish to just turn you off.
And it was like, why did I ever authorize like a film adaptation of this book? If I had not let them make this book into a movie, it would have died by now, and it could finally be done having to talk about it. I fucking hate this book. Like, that was the whole forward. And I was like, oh, okay, man. Wow.
Wow.
Did nobody edit that? Did you just slip that in there? You were like, put this in the beginning. I'll give you $50. And they were like, okay. And
well, they're probably like the only people actually buying this book are people that are fans of the movie and they just want a physical copy of the book. They're not actually going to read the book. So put whatever you want in there.
Mm-mm.
Or reverse psychology.
Yeah.
You know, like he's expecting people that liked the movie to kind of pick up the book, and then you get this just aggressive kind of fuck you, don't read this, I hate this book. And now they're like, oh well, now I'm interested. Why does he hate this book so much?
Well,
that's an angle.
It's not how it worked on me.
And hey, some people are going to agree. Wow, I got 17 words in and I don't understand any of these 17 words, so I'm going to listen to the author. I hate your book, too.
I also hate your book. What a coincidence.
This is the worst thing I've ever read, you know.
I would love to find the Paint Your Wagon screenplay, though, because I want to know why Paint Your Wagon. Because there's nothing in the movie that has anything to do with... Nobody even... I think maybe Ben Rumson owns a wagon by the end of it. But he certainly doesn't have a wagon when he starts. At the end of it,
he's riding...
That's it.
He's riding a cart.
There's no literal wagon.
Partner comes in on a wagon.
Yeah.
But these are all miners. They're not settlers. They're not like traveling in a convoy of wagons to settle down somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a cutout joke that I don't think they left in Cannibal the musical. So the tribe that they find of Indians, what they call them, Ute Indians, that basically, Japanese folks hiding in Utah as Indians.
That was so weird.
You know what he did? He had a bunch of friends. He had a friend that was a Japanese exchange student, and he got him to bring a bunch of his friends and act as the Indians in the film. It was supposed to be a joke, which it worked.
It worked, yeah.
But there's a scene that they cut out where the teepees are backwards, and there's one guy on the ground literally painting a wagon. And he goes, hey, that's a nice wagon you got there. And then the Indian looks up, and everybody turns the teepees around to hide the wagons. So I'm like, oh, okay. Direct correlation between Paint Your Wagon.
They are, in fact, painting a wagon. That could be a reference.
I'm wondering, yeah. So one little reference to Paint Your Wagon within the film that was actually cut out and not put in the final film, but I have it on the 4K.
Interesting.
Strangely
some
enough,
real value.
They didn't restore that part. They just kind of left it as grainy VHS footage. My apologies. Not VHS. This was done on Beta.
I had a Betamax.
It was a Betacam.
I had a Betamax. I had 2 movies, and the Beta machine was in the area where I could watch TV because everybody else had the VCR and the cable. But I had the TV with the Betamax, and I had 2 movies. The Land Before Time, which I hated, and Earth Girls Are Easy.
Earth Girls Are Easy?
Earth Girls Are Easy.
Wow.
So I watched Earth Girls Are Easy over and over and over again, and I feel like it explains a lot. And I don't know which one of my parents was like, that's fine. Yeah, no. The Jeff Goldblum sex comedy. That's totally fine. It's fine. It's also a musical, by the way.
All I've got stuck in my head is Julie Brown singing a song called I'm a Blonde.
Oh, yeah.
Over and over and over again, even though technically she's a redhead.
Well, they put that song in there because they cut out so much they needed to add extra time. And so they filmed that later and stuck it in there. That's why it just feels...
music video.
Yeah.
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 How did you feel about the reference that they did? Basically, this entire thing was supposed to be, I guess, Cannibal the Musical, while it was supposed to be a loose adaptation of the story of Alfred Packer, it's also supposed to have some elements of the Odyssey, which is why they included the hulking guy with one eye, the Cyclops.
Oh. Interesting.
Oh.
I would not have expected this to be a literary reference.
I did not pick up on that.
Did you catch our overtones of Homer's The Odyssey? Yes, I felt the inherent struggle of man on a long-distance trip, trying to find his woman that he's lost.
I mean, I didn't draw that direct correlation at all. And then I was listening to something earlier on today, and they were like, "Yeah, so it was in the inebriated commentary that I didn't get to listen to, but some other podcast did listen to." And I ended up trying to do a little research on this particular movie because I hadn't finished the other movie yet, and I didn't want to ruin anything. I had to watch the second half after the intermission of Paint Your Wagon when I got home today. So
that's fair. It took us 2 days.
Yeah. Clint Eastwood musical is not exactly the kind of thing that I watch to stay awake. So that was rough.
The songs are pretty good, though.
Mm-hmm.
Call the Wind, the Wind.
They call
Mariah.
the Wind Mariah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good song.
And there's the other one that's like rain can make you. What is it? It's like the wind can make you. I don't remember, but only people make you cry. It's like they're literally like mining and marching and building their town, and it's
there's
this
a
weird
lot of upbeat songs that are fun to listen to in that.
Yeah, but then one of the lines is, "But only people make you cry," and it's like that's why we're lonely, and that's why we spend our days out here just like mining and not having companionship
but also no worries.
Yeah,
no companionship, but no worries.
Yeah, and Clint Eastwood gets 2 songs that he sings all by himself, and I think it's the Talk to the Trees, and then it's the Gold Fever. And he's so unenthused by Gold Fever. He's like, Gold Fever. But
the whole time he's just like, the paychecks,
I had to look that up, though, because when he started singing, it did not sound like his voice coming out of his mouth.
No, it's him, isn't it?
It is. It's him. Yeah, I was genuinely surprised that Clint Eastwood sang his own songs.
Of course he did. What? He was trying to broaden his horizons. He was like, I am not just a Western. I am also a Western musical.
Right. I'm not just an action star.
Panned so badly by critics, though, that he never did it again.
I know. It has terrible, it's like 4 tomatoes on the tomato meter or whatever, which is honestly just the second half. Like, if we had ended it with, if you had cut out...
The movie is so long.
Well, if you had cut out the whole section where they realize that gold dust falls through the floorboards, and so they start digging
the whole branch mining under the town
the entire
thing.
town.
Yeah.
If you had cut all of that out and you'd gone straight from plural marriage to them being happy to her getting the case of the respectables, which is my favorite way of referring. She's got the case of the respectables, and then him deciding to move on, and then
having the falling out.
And then Ben deciding to move on.
Respectables.
You have to have him undercutting the entire town to be able to get to that point, though. So I understand why they took that route. It was little things that they could have cut out were like all that stuff with the kid. They didn't have to try to corrupt the kid at all.
I think you could take out a lot of the mine tunnel stuff and have that be like a story that's happening, but you only reference it
when you need to,
secondhand.
I do all the stuff with the pastor, though. When he's like, "Do you want to go to heaven or do you want to go to hell?" And they're like, "Go to hell."
the final event where the pastor's like, you're gonna sink into the pit, and then he falls into the mine, and then the entire town collapses because of the tunnels that were driven by the greed of the residents of the town, a fair consequence for their actions. That does feel fairly poetic.
Yeah.
All of their greed led to the literal collapse of the town.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just focused on all of the debauchery, basically turned it into Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, that's
which is one of his lines too.
Yeah.
So I do like the chase through the tunnels as the bull is basically running after him, and then he's just taking breaks, just trying to drink and just leaning on the wall.
Finding a hidden flask in the light. Yeah.
Like he takes these awkward chances to just take drinks here and there, and then just kind of knocks one thing out of the way, tunnel collapse is there. Like the guy that got up, what was it? He was sitting on something. He was sitting on a bed or something, and he got up to pick up a newspaper. And when he went to sit back down, there was nothing there. The back half
wall
of the
had
house
fallen out behind
collapsed.
him.
Yeah, it was
like,
good.
where the hell's my bed? It would have been funnier if he had like gotten up off the toilet or something, like the equivalent, whatever their equivalent of a toilet was back then.
Yeah.
In the entire.
I do like the 20-minute rendition of "Pass Me Round That Can of Beans." The very beginning, when they're all dancing, and they're like dancing in the mud, and they're like, "Hand me down that can of beans," and they literally, it's like 15
Why do
minutes.
I have no memory of this?
I fast forwarded through it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't.
I was like, "Oh, I know this one." Boop, boop. Come
Yeah,
back
Rachel
in a few
kept
minutes.
just skipping.
The
Well,
only
some
thing
of the
that
songs are boring.
The only thing I fast forwarded through was the intermission because they left it in my copy.
That's really funny. Just like the intermission.
This is like the theatrical version because movies this long in theaters back then, when they released them, had an intermission.
They should have an intermission now.
Yeah.
Dune needed an intermission. Dune 2 needed an intermission. They need an intermission. I can't go 3.5 hours without getting up to go pee.
Every Marvel movie needs an intermission.
You can't give
Every
me
single one.
You can't give me a vat of soda, which is what the large is now, and then be like, "Here you go." It's
And
like
that vat of soda, it comes with refills. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Right?
I know. It's like handing me a ticking time bomb and then being like, "Hope you make it the entire time." Like,
it's like, hey, look, this is a 3-hour movie. I've got 2 gallons of water sitting on my bladder right now. Can we hurry this up?
yes, you can Google it ahead of time now. People will put up like, "Here's when you need to go. If you want to go, like, leave right after this scene because nothing happens for like 10 minutes." You need that.
You still come back thinking you missed something.
I know. But it was just, all I remember is when I went to see Return of the King, I drank 2 of those. And I got to the end and I was like, I can't go pee. I'm going to miss something. Because, the end happens in Return of the King. And then there's another like 45 minutes. Like there's a whole nother like denouement where we have the ending action. And so I'm just like, it's almost over. It's almost over. I had to pee so bad I was in pain. I had like limped out to the bathroom.
I think one of the few times in modern cinema that I've seen an intermission was Grindhouse. So when Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez got together to make the 2 halves of the Grindhouse film, which was Death Proof on the front end and Planet Terror on the back end. And there was an intermission in the middle because it's 2 completely separate movies.
I mean, that makes sense then. I went to a movie theater that added an intermission, and it was in the middle of Toy Story 2. Toy Story 2 was going, and then all of a sudden it was like the little dancing popcorn walked across, and it was like, get through the lobby. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. And so
you're dancing out going, nope, we're going to the bathroom.
I know. I was like, oh, okay, all right. I didn't know you could do that. And then it just came back. Like they flashed the lights like it was coming back on. I went and sat back down. They put the movie back on. It was great.
Thankfully, they do that at like drive-ins at the very least. So you can go watch a couple of $1.50 movies over there, and then they give you the little break in between.
Yeah.
But don't ever try to go to a 3-hour movie at a drive-in.
Oh, my God.
At the very least, though, you could watch the movie at the drive-in until the point that you're in the bathroom. Yeah. And then you just rush and go back out. Yeah. And you can take the little, you can take like a little radio with you into the bathroom so you can at least hear what's going on.
Except here, it's probably, it doesn't get dark till like 9:30. And so then they don't start the movie until like 9:45. And halfway through the movie, it's past my bedtime. Okay, well, last time we tried to go, our son fell asleep in the back of the truck because we had a truck. We blew up an air mattress for them to sit on, and he laid down and fell asleep. And we ended up just driving home with him in the back.
The last set of movies I think I went to at the drive-in theater, I'm trying to think. It was the newest Beetlejuice movie, and then it was trailed on the end by the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, nice. And, that's an interesting double feature.
Oh, I regret it.
Uh-oh.
I regret it because I didn't read the information for the Rocky Horror Picture Show portion of the thing. So basically what they were telling people when we got there is that we're going to have Beetlejuice 2, and if you brought your kids to see Beetlejuice 2, that's great. But then we have the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And the Rocky Horror Picture Show also underneath the screen has an entire reenactment of the show done by one of those local troops that do reenactments of Rocky Horror.
All right.
Except this reenactment had a certain amount of nudity involved in it.
Oh.
Interesting.
So it was a very hard R-rated stage reenactment. And I'm sitting there, my good friend to my left, my son to my right. And we get part way in, and all of a sudden, Magenta's topless. And we're just like,
okay.
All right, well, you're getting a few lessons that I didn't plan to teach you today.
That feels like a really odd thing to be like,
Wow.
Would you like to come and do a slightly racier version while the movie is actually playing? And they're like, I thought you'd never ask. And then they just showed up.
Well, and I know it's a thing for Rocky Horror Picture Show to have like the people act it out while the movie's playing.
Right.
But I hadn't heard of a
like kick it up a notch.
One,
yeah, like the spicy version.
Well, this is a fairly common thing, I guess, for this particular troupe. And, well, I don't mind it. The year previous, they had come out to do the show, and they didn't have all of that going on. It wasn't the R-rated. It was literally just, scene for scene down below. So when I had bought the tickets and it was the same troupe doing it, I didn't realize that it was the R-rated version. So I wasn't paying attention. I was just thinking, oh, kind of cool. We'll go see Beetlejuice 2, and then we'll go watch that afterwards. And I didn't pay attention to what the website said. And then we got there, and they're like, okay, well, I see you've got your kid with you. And my son's 20 now. He was 19 at the time, which is fine. But it's still awkward.
Yes. It's still, it's fine. If people want to do that, of course, it's great. But one, it's helpful to know ahead of time. Mm-hmm. I feel like that should have been in a banner across the top. Like, this is an adult-only show.
Emphasized somewhere.
Because there will be nudity, like, in bold across the top. But I digress. But yeah, just to have... It's like when you're watching a movie with your parents and a sex scene comes on. And even if you're 30, 35, 40, it's still like...
Yeah,
like,
well, it's a little bit more awkward. Like, in a movie, you kind of expect it. It's a little more awkward when you go out to the movies together in public and a live burlesque show pops up.
Yeah.
It's just, sorry, son, I didn't realize we were going to be seeing live breasts tonight. I will step over here. And we'll make a little distance because this is a little awkward. You can watch it if you want to continue. You can go back to the car.
Eyes on the screen. Eyes on the screen.
Look up there. You're looking at the wrong place.
The movie's
I can't unsee it, Dad.
There.
I can't stop. I don't. Okay, we're done.
I think you could do a live action spicy version of Paint Your Wagon.
Yeah.
I mean, with all the tones that it has, I mean, you could definitely do a live action reenactment of that, but who wants to spend 3 hours of their lives trying to come up with a live action reenactment?
Nobody, apparently, because I'm the only one who... Every time I mention this movie, people are like, what? I'm like, the Clint Eastwood Western where he ends up in a plural marriage. That one? And they're like, what? Yeah, that one.
I have never watched this movie up until yesterday. Never. I have never seen it.
No one's ever heard of it.
I was like, hey, let's get a 4K version of this film. This is beautiful insanity. It was a wonderful film to watch in that kind of clarity. There were parts that dragged.
Yeah, that's fair. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's 1969. It definitely has that 70s pacing. Mm-hmm. Some scenes don't. Some scenes are fine, but some of them you're like, wow, okay, this was
I imagine if I had gotten like an old grainy VHS version of this particular movie, I would not have been able to tolerate it. I really wouldn't have. Yeah. But the fact that it was in 4K, it was crystal clear, and I got these glasses yesterday. The fact that I got to watch it without the fog of my actual vision, I didn't realize how crystal clear 4K actually was till I put these glasses on.
Like, oh, the problem is me. Oh, okay. I got
it. Okay. I live in a fairly rundown, drab city. I work up the hill at this school, right? And when I say hill, like the hills here are like this.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So the hill to get to work every day is almost a good, it's just shy of a 90-degree angle. So you walk up the hill, I do my work, I come back down the hill. The sun is setting today as I'm coming down the hill, and I had my glasses on, and I have never stopped on the hill to watch the sunset because it was just a blur of colors. It was just like, okay, it's cloudy, it's blah, blah, blah. Walk down the hill. Everything was crystal clear today. So I'm like, okay. So I bought 2 pairs of glasses. A whole new world. That for all of half a day, I was like, this is an absolute mistake. I don't have my reading glasses. I need to be able to read shit. Okay, I can read this. Computer's that far away from me. I can read everything fine. And everything else around me is crystal clear. It makes me want to clean my apartment. My wife is going to appreciate these glasses.
Maybe that's when I need to get mad.
What? No.
He's like, no, it wouldn't help. Mm-mm.
It's a sensitivity thing, not a visibility thing.
Yeah. It's a complete change of perspective. I can appreciate it. So, between both of these films, if you had to get rid of one of them, which one would you get rid of?
Cannibal the musical.
No question.
Okay. Fair enough. Who do you think?
I don't want to insult the movie.
Who do you think did better with their budget?
What was the budget for Paint Your Wagon?
Too much.
I want to say Paint Your Wagon still made a decent amount of money, even though it got critically panned. Like, it was destroyed by the critics. This was one of the highest grossing films for, I think, Paramount at the time that it had come out.
Wow.
But they still
felt very old Hollywood, like big, fancy, throw money at it.
They spent $20 million.
Whoa, what is that adjusted for inflation? Films from 1969.
Adjusted for inflation, that's going to be pretty high.
Yeah.
They paid $80,000 every day to transport the cast and crew to the filming location because the closest hotel was 60 miles away. And the elaborate camp used in the film cost $2.4 million to build.
Wow. I have to say,
a rainstorm destroyed the road connecting the set to Baker City, and they had to pay $10,000 per mile to rebuild the road.
Okay. Now, for just a little bit under,
formed a union to get a pay raise.
Wow. Just a little bit under 2 days worth of transportation for that movie. Cannibal the Musical was made. $125,000.
I mean, yeah, I think Cannibal the Musical probably used their budget more wisely.
1993 only spent $125,000 for their budget. And honestly, for practical effects, for the gore and so on and so forth in the film, I think they did a decent job.
I think they did a good job.
Over its release, Paint Your Wagon grossed $31 million. Although the earnings never offset the cost of production and marketing.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm sure Cannibal the Musical has gone on to make a lot more money than Paint Your Wagon.
Yeah.
In terms of like cost to produce versus income. Like if we look at it percentages, I'm not sure it made 31 million, but if it made like $1 million, it made more in a percentage of its cost.
Let's talk about it. Return on investment.
Yes, return on investment.
I mean, they got me to pay $40 for a Blu-ray copy of this.
Yeah,
that's a big
chunk. I spent $20 for Paint Your Wagon.
I had heard of Cannibal the Musical, so
you had heard of it?
I had
never heard of it.
Okay, so 2 out of 3 people had heard of this film within this small group. You had heard of it. I had watched it several times by the time you had heard of it.
Okay, 20
and you made him watch it because he had never heard of it.
Was it 20 million?
Yeah, in 1969.
Okay, that's about 171 or 172 million dollars today.
Damn.
Yeah, almost $200 million to make this movie.
Yeah, I imagine for the amount that they had to pay in the theaters to run, it probably didn't make back what it needed to. 31 million is definitely not a.
They used to throw stupid money at movies.
Yeah, but $20 million is not what they used to throw at back then.
Well, it's like
the original budget was 10, but it ended up doubling to 20.
Well, it's like Krull. Crawl was one of the most expensive movies ever made when it was released.
How much did that cost?
In 1983,
Yep.
It cost...
Too much?
Too much. I'm looking it up.
I mean, that's what we were just saying. It was one of the most expensive films at the time that it was made, which is basically what they said for Paint Your Wagon. Paint Your Wagon, I guess, is the equivalent of our Waterworld.
Yeah,
which
Waterworld is a better movie than people give it credit for being.
Okay. I want to say...
okay, it was $30 million. Crawl cost $30 million.
And this is going to be met with harsh criticism, I understand. But the biggest problem that Waterworld had nothing to do with anything other than not Anthony Hopkins. What's his name? Dennis Hopper being the main bad guy in that film.
Mm.
He didn't have a menacing quality to him in the film itself. He just came off as goofy. And so even with him being the big bad guy in the film, he didn't put off enough of a menacing quality for it to make him a believable villain for a film that cost that much. And so every time he was on screen, it just pulled me right out of the film. I was like, oh,
that's fair. That's a fair criticism.
Yeah.
Crawl cost $30 million in 1983, which adjusted for inflation is $97 million. So technically speaking, they spent more on it because they spent $30 million.
But
whereas they
adjusted
only
for inflation,
spent $20 million in 1969. So if you don't adjust for inflation, yes, they spent more on Crawl than they did on Paint Your Wagon. But if you adjust for inflation, Paint Your Wagon's almost double the expense.
I mean, that's fair.
I just remember Tim Curry. He has an interview that he did about why was he in Annie? Because he's in Annie, the movie. And you're like, Tim Curry? Okay, all right, fine. You know what? Whatever. I completely accept anything. He's like Jack Black. You want to be in that? Fine. I don't care. You're going to be great in it. It's great. And he said he took the role because he knew it was going to be one of the last huge Hollywood movies with like a giant cast and a giant set where they were going to throw a ton of money at it. And he wanted to know what it was like to be in that kind of movie. And he didn't think he was ever going to get another chance.
Now they do that.
And I think that's a fair assessment.
Now. They throw money at franchises, though, now.
Yeah, it's not this where, for these movies like Paint Your Wagon, it is huge. Like, they constructed a town, like a functioning town, and they had a town-sized number of people that had to work on it. And it was huge. Tons of money, all that. Like, think about all the, like, putting everybody up, feeding everybody the whole time they're there. Bathroom facilities for everybody while they're there. Like, it's just wild. And then you think about movies like, well, Cannibal the Musical is like 5 Dudes in the Woods, which is great.
Right.
Like, that's also a movie and it's fine. But like, you don't get movies like that today where they build like the town. They're going to do a CG town maybe, but they're not going to build like they did for Lord of the Rings. We always have, every year we watch Lord of the Rings at Christmas and we always have the same discussion, like why the first 3 Lord of the Rings movies are it. Like, perfect. They'll go, like, they'll be remembered forever. And then, like, The Hobbit, no one talks about The Hobbit. Like, nobody goes back and watches The Hobbit. It's still Peter Jackson. Theoretically, it should have the same feel. But when they did the Lord of the Rings movies, they filmed it like Paint Your Wagon, where they hired potters and metallurgists and...
Right, they terraformed a big chunk of New Zealand.
Yeah. They created an experience for the actors to be in.
Right. But then The Hobbit was all CG.
And then The Hobbit was all
CG.
Stages. So it's just like it's a different feel for the movie because the actors are in the town. They're not on a green screen.
Right. They're not in a warehouse that has buildings in it.
Yeah.
So
They're
will
actually
say
out in the wilderness.
that I've watched the original trilogy, all extended editions. I have not watched any of The Hobbit.
I watched the first
None of
Hobbit. And I was like, this is some bullshit. I didn't watch any of the rest of it.
They threw in a bunch of made up stuff. And
they pulled it from the other like additional writings or whatever. But like, no. How do you take one book and make it 3 movies and then take 3 books and make them 3 movies? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, much like everything else that I have on the shelves over here, I own the movies. I have not watched them.
I don't even own them.
So I was going through it. I was cataloging everything that I own here. And of the almost 500 movies that I have here, I may have watched about 100.
Wow.
So I bought a lot of movies with the intent of watching them to maybe discuss on the podcast.
You bought a lot of shelf decorations?
Shelf trophies.
That's what they are right now.
Yeah.
And eventually I'll have a little thing like right here, so that, right here, not right here. So that like underneath Cinematic Anarchy will have like the movie of the day, like the DVD that I had.
Okay, that'll be
whatever. Cool. But I have invested so much money in these things, and a lot of these DVDs, these Blu-rays that I purchased was back when we had our original crew of 4 that all just sat around a table. This is before my son had his own bedroom. And we had like this room over here where we had like a futon and a couple of chairs, and we just kind of sat around and all discussed things. And I started buying all these movies, and I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this. We're all going to sit down and watch this. And we'd sit and we'd drink, and half of our podcasts were done very, very drunk. We all had a lot to drink. A few of them had a little to smoke out on the porch here. And now I've got a ton of DVDs. I'm still collecting them, but the main 4 aren't here anymore. So I'm like, okay, I need to just write all these down. I'm like, hey, who wants to come and sit down and watch this shit with me and do a podcast?
Yeah.
Or who wants to just hop on from afar and do a podcast? So I'm glad. I'm glad that I watched these because I purchased them.
And now you watched them.
And now I've watched them. But
yeah,
I purchased one because I wanted to spend an insane amount of money for a movie that I originally bought a $2 VHS for. And the other one I bought because, you're like, you know what you should watch? We should sit down and talk about Paint Your Wagon. And I'm like, let's paint your wagon. I had the exact same reaction that you said. Everybody else is like, what?
What
movie?
I don't know what that is.
You're like, the musical with Clint Eastwood.
The greatest Western ever made. I don't know which.
That's a bold statement.
It's definitely one of the only Clint Eastwood movies I've ever seen. Like, I've seen a couple of his movies, but I've seen Paint Your Wagon more than any other movie. That my dad loved Paint Your Wagon. He loved it. He loved Clint Eastwood, and he liked Lee Marvin. And my dad was a middle-aged white man inside, a white woman inside, and so he loved like the love story in this movie, and so he got to watch a Western and a love story at the same time, and so he really liked this.
This is the third. I'm sorry, Cannibal the Musical is the third most watched Western in my catalog here. Number 1,
that's fair.
Number 1 is Young Guns, and then number 2 would be The Quick and the Dead.
I've watched a fair amount of Quigley Down Under.
Oh, Tom Selleck?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
I got my mom a shirt with naked Tom Selleck on it.
A Western, though? I mean, that's sort of like a Western if it were in Australia, if I'm not
mistaken.
It is
set in Australia, but it's Western-ish.
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 Yeah, the Quigley is a Western like action character.
He's a cowboy. He just ends up in Australia.
He just goes to Australia. Yeah.
And meets Alan Rickman.
Was that their like version of Crocodile Dundee? Basically, like, okay, well, we had
the reverse.
We brought an American to Australia instead of an Australian to America.
Oh, you call that a gun? It's just a gun.
It doesn't sound quite as intimidating coming out of Tom Selleck's mouth. Tom Selleck had a couple of really good films. It's just Quigley was like middle of the road for Tom Selleck.
I don't know why. I don't know why we watched it, because it was so sad. It's so sad. And we watched it a lot. And I just don't. It's like me owning Earth Girls Are Easy. Who on earth put Earth Girls Are Easy in the kids' room and was like, here, kids, this is a musical. You'll like it. Like, you know who's in that movie? It's Jeff Goldblum.
Gina Davis.
Is it Damon Wayans? One of the Wayans brothers.
Yeah, it was Damon Wayans, Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey.
Oh, God. There were a couple of other people. Julie Brown was her friend.
The guy who plays Gina Davis's like boyfriend / fiance. Guy who committed suicide, but I can't remember his name.
What is that guy's name? The guy that plays the pool, the pool cleaner. Spinal Tap and
that guy.
Oh yeah,
he was hilarious.
She's sitting on the spaceship in the middle of the pool, and he's like, "Lost your contact again?" Because she's got to drain the pool. And she's like, "Yeah, it just keeps coming out."
It's like there's this big spaceship in the middle of the pool.
Yeah. All I remember is the scene where I remember a lot of the movie, but like the scene that, like, what on earth is when there's the scene where they shave them because they're like red and yellow and blue to start with. And then Damon Wayans comes out and he's like, oh my God, you're like totally black. And that's that scene. And then they go to like a bar/club. And so Jim Carrey has to get ice out of the bottom of the cup. And so he sticks his tongue all the way in the bottom of the cup and gets a piece of ice and pulls it back out. And the one girl goes, he's coming home with me, and like grabs it.
Oh, the other Damon Wayans thing in the club where he's looking at the girl and he goes, why go home with a hero when you can go home with a zero?
Yes. And then he does the dance. Like he dances. Oh my God. It's such a...
He outdances the guy, and then he spins around like a top, like burning his heels.
Yes, yeah. Meanwhile, Jeff Goldblum's like playing piano in a sparkly blazer on the top floor of the club. He's like, I can be your Mr. Right. You're like, oh my God, what's happening? Anyway, we should do an episode on Earth Girls Are Easy. I talk about Earth Girls Are Easy all day.
People had a thing for Jeff Goldblum for a very short period of time after he did The Fly.
Yeah,
like the shirtless scene in The Fly.
Hot. Yeah.
But up until then, he was just this tall, gangly guy that somehow always ended up next to Ed Begley Jr. in different things.
Yeah. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute, we've been sleeping on this guy. And then he got to be the hot guy for a while. And then now he's the hot weird guy, which I love for him. Like,
that was the other Gina Davis film that he was in, I believe. Transylvania 65000.
Yes. And then he's in Vibes. Is it with Cyndi Lauper?
Cyndi Lauper. Yep. I actually own that too, which is another
like
movie
Vibes.
I haven't watched, but I know about. It's like I know a lot about this movie for having never seen it.
I'll do Vibes with you.
Okay.
I like Vibes.
What's Vibes?
So Cyndi Lauper and Jeff Goldblum are psychic. They're not psychic. They are different types of psychic. I think Cyndi Lauper has a spirit guide.
I think you have watched this since I've known you, sometime in the last 20 years.
Yes.
And
watch this me adjacent.
And I walked past while you were watching part of it, but I didn't sit down and watch it with you.
And Jeff Goldblum's like a neurotic psychic guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because Jeff Goldblum plays neurotic in so many different things.
Yes.
Like
I mean, it's like his Christopher Walken thing. Like, it's his thing. So
he had his short, like 5-movie stint of hot, and then went just right back to neurotic.
Yeah. It's fine. I love that for him. It's fine.
So he kind of had the semi-cool thing. Like, I don't know if he was trying to go for like a bad boy or a semi-cool thing in the Jurassic Park setup.
Yeah. It was his attempt at being an action hero.
Yeah.
But I think if you really want to know who Jeff Goldblum is as an actor, you just need to watch the episode of Portlandia where he's the pullout king. He's like, I'm the pullout king.
If you really want to know who he is as an actor, just watch those commercials that he does for the rental thing.
Apartments.com or whatever.
Or the one episode of Friends that he's in.
Which is him being the pullout king in a serious capacity. Because in Portlandia, he sells pullout couches. And he just pops up and he's like, because I'm the pullout king. And it's like,
I was just about to say the pullout couch king.
Yes.
I have not seen that episode of Portlandia.
Okay, well now you just Google Pullout King and he'll pop up. It's fine.
I've seen a lot of that show. I guess I must have missed that episode.
The dream of the 90s is alive in Portland.
Because Portland has not really gotten past the 90s.
Yeah, that's
just
fine.
like a lot of music from like England and the UK hasn't gotten past the 80s.
I mean,
early 90s.
That's fine. I don't listen to anything past like 2012 anyway, so I'm totally fine with that.
I've just noticed like a lot of modern music from like the UK right now, it has like a 80s to early 90s vibe. Like it just got stuck there and they're like, no, we don't need to move past this. This is perfection.
Well, that's because they reach perfection. Why would you do something new?
They recognized it.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. People are still like dancing to shit from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So if you found a niche and people are still going to dance to it, then go for it.
Yeah.
People are still listening. Between both movies, best and worst actors.
It's hard to say for Cannibal the musical, to be honest.
I'll be honest with you. Trey Parker was probably the best actor in that film.
Yeah, I was going to say I was impressed with Trey Parker's performance.
Yeah. All right.
Especially in contrast.
I'm trying to think Paint Your Wagon.
For me, for Cannibal the Musical, the female lead from that film was probably the worst actor in that. Polly Pry or whatever her name is.
Oh yeah, the reporter.
Her basically trying to seduce him into giving her information, and it's like,
she's like, you can tell me your secrets, and you're like, oh, okay,
no,
all right,
no.
All right, let me look up the name of this guy for Paint Your Wagon.
you got a lot of different actors in Paint Your Wagon.
Oh, there's no way you have to look him up, because there's the Irish guy named Red. I think if I had to put anybody as the worst actor, it'd be that guy.
Such a caricature.
Yeah,
a bad caricature.
Is it Ray Walston?
Ray Walston.
That's Mad Jack.
Yeah.
Ray
There's
Walston.
another guy named Red then. Okay, but that guy, Ray Walston. He's the Irish guy, and he's got his hair dyed red.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I will give him probably the worst actor in that film.
Yeah,
because of the fact that he feels out of place in that film. He really does.
He really only pops up when they need something plot-wise. So they'll be like, I'm going to go find him. And so they go find him. And then because he's the one who digs the underground tunnel with him, which previously they'd never had. Like, they hated each other when they first got together. And and he's the one who pops up when he's like, it ain't right. He's got 2 of something we all got none of. Right. And that prompts for them to buy the wife. And like, that's pretty much his whole purpose, is just to show up and say a thing, and so then they can move forward with that plot line. So if I had to pick anybody, it'd probably be him.
I feel like and this is just Ray Walston in general, like, he has a lot of things that I liked him in. Everything for like My Favorite Martian was one of his better shows.
Yeah.
However, he feels like the only actor in that film that was just completely out of place, like he was acting in something completely different.
Yeah. If I had to go with worst singing voice, though, it's got to be Lee Marvin, because I don't even think he sang. He just talked along, and then they had like a choral version of whatever he was saying behind his words, so it kind of sounded like he was singing, because I was born
a wanderer.
Yeah, under a wandering star. His like
was born a wanderer. You know, he was just talking it out, and it was really low. And I'm like, this is not singing.
No,
he's not singing this.
No, they didn't hire him for that. I don't know why. I don't know how he ended up on this. But
now, while I do like Lee Marvin and I like Clint Eastwood, Gene Seberg, I would give the best actor in the film personally.
I agree.
Yeah,
because while Eastwood and Lee both kind of shared the spotlight and did a decent job, every scene that she was in, she stole.
Yeah.
Like, she had some of the best lines in the film, probably some of the most believable acting.
She pulled all the chemistry together.
Yeah. Apparently Lee Marvin would only act if he got real alcohol. So all of the alcohol he's consuming on screen is actually alcohol.
Wow. And he drinks a lot.
Yeah, he said he was drunk pretty much every day of filming.
So you know that scene where he passed out and could barely get to the altar and kept falling down? Well, that was actually them trying to get him through that scene. They hadn't actually
scheduled it for that day, but they took advantage of his situation.
Gene Seberg described Lee Marvin singing like rain gurgling down a rusty pipe.
Rain gurgling down a rusty pipe. That's even a nice way to put it.
Yeah. Apparently
I would say somebody burping into a rusty pipe, but that's just me.
Clint Eastwood and Gene Seberg had an affair during the filming.
Well, okay, I could see that. You know, Clint Eastwood was a decent-looking guy, weirdly had a pompadour in a place that didn't look like he should have had any pomade.
Right.
It's like, okay, dude, what are you putting in your hair to keep that up? Because I've seen that scene in Something About Mary. You know, you're talking about how lonely you are and how much time you spend by yourself. It's like, I know you don't have pomade in this backwards town.
The shoot attracted local vagrants and hippies who stole food and supplies from the set. So Logan cast them as extras, though they refused his instructions to cut their hair or wear period clothing. And eventually the extras organized a makeshift union demanding $25 a day payments and commissary bags full of food for fellow hippies. And since he didn't have any replacements, he had to give in to their demands. So they had to do it.
See, this is what you get for feeding the hippies. They unionize. I mean, okay, I can understand. It's like, hey, we're here doing the work. You can't just pay us in peanuts. You got to actually pay us.
Right. They were probably getting paid almost nothing because they hadn't been hired.
Lee Marvin's only 44 in this movie.
Lee Marvin has that Steve Martin thing. Where
okay.
He does look a lot younger when he's clean
like
shaven.
He was in his 50s, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. Because you pulled up some pictures of him clean shaven.
Yeah.
And he looks way younger when he doesn't have facial hair.
Way younger. A lot younger. I don't
Wow.
have pictures of Lee Marvin just magically on my phone all of a sudden. I didn't have that pulled up.
I also look a lot younger with no facial hair.
Mariah Carey is named after the song They Call the Wind Mariah.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. It's a good song. Usually when we
song.
watch this movie, Matt will sing it for like 2 weeks. He'll just be around. He's like, they call the wind Mariah.
It's a good song, but I'm a little sad that they stole it for her name.
Yeah, well, that's, yeah.
I don't look good shaved, and I'm actually now realizing next time I do this, I'm hoping to figure out how to control this, like see where the battery is for the lighting for this stupid thing, because this white light has washed me out and I look like a fucking pale ghost.
Yeah.
I really do. I look really pale and sick right now, and I'm not pale and sick. Well, I'm pale, but I'm not sick. I don't see a lot of sunlight for obvious reasons. I work indoors. I do the podcast indoors. Even when I'm shopping, I'm indoors. So, like, if I go outside, I burn. And then I look a lot like this color, you know, or actually a little bit more like this color here.
Yeah, I don't tan, I crisp.
Bing Crosby was the first choice for the role of Ben Rumson.
Oh.
This is a different movie with Bing Crosby. Also, Jane Fonda was considered for the female role.
Could you imagine Jane Fonda and Bing Crosby on either side of Clint Eastwood trying to do this film?
Love.
No.
Love. No. That's Barbarella. Have you ever seen Barbarella?
Yes, I've seen Barbarella. You threw me for a minute. I'm like, what? Oh, okay.
I just watched Barbarella. That's why.
Oh, when did you watch it?
On a girls' weekend.
Oh, okay.
They had never seen it, and I was like, "Fuck, put Barbarella on right immediately."
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Jane Fonda defeat the Orgasmatron, have you lived? Have you lived?
Another movie that could have gone hard into the R territory that somehow managed to stay around like PG-13.
Except for all the sex. And it's all transactional sex, which is really funny because they'll be like, well, you kind of owe me, Barbarella. And she's like, I mean, okay. Sounds great to me. And then there's the angel guy who's my favorite because he's so melodramatic. He's in a completely different movie.
I mean, maybe. Am I misremembering Barbarella right now?
Is it Jane Fonda in various outfits because she's constantly fucking every dude that she meets?
Right, but I don't. From what I remember, there was no actual fucking in the film.
No, there's no explicit sex. No.
Right.
No. There's some nudity at the beginning.
Yes, brief nudity.
Yeah.
Okay.
In her shag,
the sex is all implied.
In her shag carpet spaceship.
This is another movie that I've watched and then for some reason bought like a $35 4K copy of.
My favorite trivia about Barbarella, favorite thing ever, is it's not supposed to be a comedy.
No.
What?
Nope. It was intended to be serious sci-fi.
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
What about Barbarella was supposed to be serious sci-fi?
No, it's all unintentional.
Yeah, you couldn't. You'd have to cast somebody else as Barbarella.
No, it was intended to be a serious commentary.
Serious.
Yes, about society. And
no.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
This is not Logan's Run. This is Barbarella. Okay.
I mean, look
this
it
is
up.
like the 70s equivalent of like Barbed Wire with Pam Anderson.
Yeah, to us, but let's see.
No, because Barbarella is not a serious film. Like there had to have been like, you ever commit to something like, no, this was supposed to be like serious sci-fi, and then they never lose that commitment to saying, no, this was serious sci-fi. It was definitely supposed to be serious sci-fi. It's not a comedy.
Yeah, no, it's supposed to be, but it's in the 60s. It's like the 60s version of like serious sci-fi. I don't know. I'm just, hey, don't shoot the messenger. I do like when she sleeps on the clear plastic. She's like, what if I got naked and just laid face down on this plastic with the camera underneath of me? She does that at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like, that's like saying, like, In Like Flint was supposed to be a serious spy action film. No.
Okay. I'm just saying.
I know what you're saying. I'm just saying no.
In the 60s, they were like, yeah, that's I get it. You know, it's like a gritty reboot with shag carpeting and evil dolls that chase her down and strategically cut her outfits.
All of you that were born at a time that you could have watched this in the 60s in the theaters or wherever you could have watched it. Was it serious at the time? Please weigh in. Comments below, because there'll be a video put out of this. Yeah,
we need context.
Because I'm trying to see anybody that went out there and thought this was serious social commentary. I want to meet you. I want to physically meet the person that's gone like, no, man, Barbarella, you don't get it, man. That was like serious social commentary. Explain yourself to me. I want to know what's going on in your head.
I need the receipts.
Right. What were you smoking? And what was it laced with?
Well, I don't know. We'll have to do an episode on Barbarella now. And we've got Vibes, Barbarella. I feel like that's a good lineup.
Vibes and Barbarella. Yeah, that's a pretty good lineup.
Yeah. Not together.
I have
separately.
both of them, so it's very easy for me to access. It's right there.
Hey, it's 2 things to check off your list.
It gives me an excuse. Yeah, 2 things, and that's 102 to the other, like 400 or 398. Because I've only watched like 100 out of the 500 movies that are over there.
Yeah.
They're all over my living room. She's like, is there any reason to have all these movies? I go, well, once I've watched all of them, then I will just do like live episodes where I auction them off.
Yeah.
You know, here you go. We'll bring in some revenue by selling my movies and shipping them out to people and losing money on shipping.
Yeah, that is how it is done.
Yeah, pretty much. So any final thoughts on these films that we tripped through?
I'm glad we did this.
I enjoyed both films. I mean, like
Western musicals are such a niche thing, and that there's 2 of them, and that they're so weird, and that they're so similar is an opportunity that could not be passed up.
And that till this evening, I did not realize that there were references to Paint Your Wagon in Cannibal the Musical, or technically should have been in Cannibal the Musical, but were cut out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that they decided, that's my last thing for this. The one thing that they trimmed out, the reason I got this 4K thing outside of the inebriated commentary, which I'm going to have to probably fall asleep listening to tonight, is they call it deleted scene. But what it was is that the entire scene that involves the teepee village of the Ute Indians, it was cut down. So there were some scenes added and some scenes taken away. That maybe 75% of it was cut out and not put in the film. And then there were little extras, like they embellished the exchange between the little guy and the Indian princess, where she's just like going, that's very interesting. It's like, you don't know what I'm saying, do you? That's very interesting. Like all she can say is, that's very interesting. She's like, yeah, I'm going to go with it. He thinks he's going to get laid, and she's just like, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. I'm just humoring you because I don't know what's going on. So yeah, that's my last bit of saying anything about that film for a little while. Maybe next time we get together, I can tell you what the inebriated commentary on this sounded like.
That'd be good. You can hit the highlights.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, why don't you go ahead and tell the good listeners where they can find you?
Well, we have Strange and Beautiful Book Club, where we talk about books. Or right now we are talking about Babylon 5 on our new podcast, We Are All Kosh. And we're up to episode, I think 5 or 6.
Yeah.
We're having a good time. So that's really fun. We have an entirely finished TV series called Come In 81 Kilo, where we talked about Forever Night. And we're also covering giant Brandon Sanderson books on a podcast called Feast, Sheath, and Shatter. And you can find us all at strangeandbeautiful.network.
My good friends, you need to crack the whip in my direction because I own the series now and I have not watched it yet so that I can listen to the podcast.
Babylon 5 or Forever Night?
No, Forever Night. I told you
need to. Yeah, you need to watch it.
And I think I got like an
it's
episode
all ready for you.
But like the holidays and everything distracted the hell out of me.
Should you find the need to disassociate from reality for whatever reason, I highly suggest Forever Night.
I mean, I can do that with a couple of edibles.
I feel like
things in reality that you need to dissociate from.
Yeah.
Maybe if
Forever
I had a
Night
couple
can
of
be
edibles
your escape.
and then
And
watched
Forever Night. Yeah.
Hey.
I'm not saying that's not a bad idea.
I'm a little high, and now I'm
watching vampires do sexy stuff. And kind of maybe solve some crimes, but probably not.
I got a couple of series I got to get through over here, like Friday the 13th, the series. I bought the box set because it was initially my plan to cut off all of our services for a short period of time to just kind of not pay into them for a little bit. So we bought like several box sets of TV shows to just have on hand. It's like, we need some new stuff to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen this.
We don't pay for any streaming services. I don't pay for shit. I just watch
cable,
Tubi.
and now I'm paying for more than I was paying into cable to have all these streaming services.
Yeah,
So,
I watch Tubi because it's free.
Tubi's
And
good.
then rent movies if we have to rent them, get them from the library sometimes. And a lot of them we own already, so.
Honestly, you can find, if you search hard enough, you can find a lot of stuff that's like free on YouTube, not in the best way, and free on places like Daily Motion.
Well, some things are
like
free on
that.
YouTube. Like some things we might do for this podcast would be free on YouTube because they're like orphaned properties. Because we also have a podcast called Garrett Can Get It, which is about this really obscure Canadian actor named Garrett Wynne Davies, who is the main actor in Forever Night. And he has a couple things that I have posted the video, like I posted the content on our YouTube channel because otherwise it's unavailable.
Okay.
Like there was a TV show in the early 90s called Matrix, which ironically also starred Carrie-Anne Moss.
Okay.
But it's not related to the movies. It was about a assassin who gets killed on a mission and he gets brought back and he has to do good deeds to keep himself from going to hell. And it ran for one whole season and it's gone. Like you cannot find it. And we happened to get this episode because somebody had a tape tree tape where they had taped this episode. And so we ripped it off the VHS tape and I put it up on YouTube because it's not available. Nobody owns it. And if anybody ever contacts me to take it down, hey, at least I now know who owns the property because currently I don't. And so, I mean, it's not great, but like otherwise no one would be able to watch it. So I put it up. And I've had people message me and be like, you got any more of that? And I'm like, no, I literally only have the one episode. Like, I'm sorry. Because people want to see it. They want to watch it, but they can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was like a Lifetime Network. There was like a Lifetime Network Twilight Zone-esque type show that was like supposed to be female focused that has also completely disappeared. And I have a couple episodes of that up.
Sure, it's out there somewhere. They're just trying to wait until there's a reason to put it back out. No, you got to just look for things.
Some of them are just gone. Like some of them, they just there was never any money to be made in them, so they've just been let go, and now they're unfindable. So nobody could even bring them back to release them. So they're lost media.
Weird rabbit holes of TV shows, movies, and other things that starred or had cameos from wrestlers that should have never been in anything.
Oh, okay. So like They Live.
They Live, yeah. that was not a bad movie.
No, I love They Live. I love They Live, yeah.
There are some other Roddy Piper properties that you look at and go, wow. Like Hell Comes to Frogtown. Hell Comes to Frogtown is a very interesting... Have you ever seen this movie?
No.
Never heard of it.
Stars Roddy Piper as one of the few fertile men on the planet after an apocalypse. And the women that basically capture him and try to breed him.
Oh, no. How hard for him.
There's another... There's basically a fight between them and like frogs from Frogtown. It's a very weird film. And
I'm sold.
It was low budget, very low budget.
Oh, it'd have to be.
And for some reason has like 2 or 3 sequels that are just obscure. I'm trying to hunt down that have nothing to do with Roddy Piper, just the frogs.
Okay, yeah, no, the real heroes of the Frogtown movie.
Right. Yeah, it's just
wow.
Yeah, it's some weird shit. I have a Blu-ray of that here somewhere too. It's
4K.
Yeah, no, not 4K. They never put out a 4K of that one.
I was going to say with a Roddy Piper commentary.
They have like plenty of.
Shouldn't be like, I like girls.
Roddy's not around anymore, so if they got commentary from him, it's through a psychic medium that just kind of...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, so I think we should just move on out of wrestlers in television, and I'll just say you can find our podcast pretty much everywhere now on YouTube, various social media sites. I think we're trying to get a presence up now on Blue Sky. I haven't figured out the whole Mastodon thing, or what is this other thing? The Stacks? I have no idea.
Substack.
I haven't figured out how to use that yet.
That's more of a blogging platform.
It's like LiveJournal.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't have enough time to do that.
No, I have a Blue Sky. It's fine. Sufficient. I'm not going to do any more than
Reds.
that. Yeah.
I haven't been putting up as much on the X platform, only just because I've lost interest in that whole thing. It's just kind of flooded with things that
they
I
are
don't want to.
People.
We should let them die. Yeah.
It is what it is. I have a lot of contacts on there, so I still hop on there to kind of contact people from different things. But other than that, not interested in it anymore. Still on Facebook and various other podcasting platforms. I have realized that I'm showing a lot of disinterest in talking about my own thing. Like, you can go here, you can go there.
If you wanna, you can find me on these places. I might not be there.
What you gotta do is type in Cinematic Anarchy in the old Googles, and you'll find us somewhere.
Yeah, it'll pop up.
It's somewhere.
You found us here, so
yeah. I mean, if you're watching this,
you're halfway there.
Managed to get to the almost 2-hour mark. We're pushing up against 2 hours.
Hey, we're almost as long as Paint Your Wagon. Just got to chat for half an hour longer. We'll be good to go.
I don't want to bore people like that.
Oh,
I'm sure we can come up with some interesting conversation. Oh, no, I'm just saying.
You don't want to bore people, but you still maintain a podcast?
Similar to Paint Your Wagon.
That's a good point.
Similar to Paint Your Wagon, we stayed on target for like the first half, and then the second half was side quests, which I feel is...
I only say bore people like that because we got to the end where we're like, okay, we're doing all the end stuff, and then it's like, hey, let's find a way to talk for another half hour to 45 minutes.
Whatever, you know why you're here.
Yeah, because I don't shut up. That's why I'm here. I don't. Ask my wife.
You're like, I can't talk to you enough, so I'm going to talk to people on the internet. This is what you've driven me to.
Could you... We're trying to watch TV. Come on. Quiet down a little bit. So, to end things as Miss B would normally say, drink some water, you thirsty bitches. I still haven't figured out my own thing yet. So I've stolen hers, and I continue to repeat it, even though it doesn't sound right coming out of my mouth. I could just do the old Walter Cronkite thing. Good night and good luck.
Yeah. That's
that Walter
the way
Cronkite?
That's the way it was.
The cookie crumbles.
That's Joe Almighty, Bruce Almighty.
Bruce Almighty.
Whichever
Joe Almighty.
I don't know. I can't remember.
I think Joe the Mighty. Isn't that the movie with the ape in it?
Yeah, Mighty Joe.
Mighty Joe.
I don't know.
Mighty Joe Young.
I don't know. Does he have a hockey team? I don't know. The Mighty Ducks.
It's the Mighty Ducks. Joe the Mighty Ducks Young. It's about an
Almighty
ape that takes up with a teenage band of hockey players.
And then becomes God temporarily. Yes.
I'm just thinking, all I can get out, I can't get it out of my head is a movie with Matthew LeBlanc when he was younger, where he showed up by a pitcher that is a monkey. Yeah.
Listen, there was a wild time in there. Right.
There are some movies.
Yeah.
There are some films.
Yeah. Until next time, friends.
Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.